Chapter 4398. The vast energy eroded everything around it. 3 steps away from Dmo Xian, because of the rebounding energy, the entire Tianya Ridge was shaking incessantly. Bam, 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 the tyrannical profound waves collided again and again. And were rebounded by that invisible barrier again and again. Each wave was more turbulent than the last. Each wave was more majestic and vast than the last. Everything around it was razed to the ground. But, even though it created such a horrifying scene, the man's face was still so gentle and pampering. There was not a bit of evil aura on it. It was as if the surrounding environment was treacherous. It was not created by him. And he seemed to have no connection with the surrounding environment. By his ear, he only heard the gentle voice of a young lady, gently ringing. The gentle voice was filled with the sweetness and tenderness of a young lady. Each and every word was like a warm current, rippling in his heart. He would occasionally respond with a word or two. From time to time, he would use a low and alluring voice to reply a few words. Even at the same time when he was doing such a gentle thing, the surrounding profound waves did not stop for even a little bit. On the contrary, along with the gentleness in his eyes, his imposing manner and broad and violent overbearingness, as if it could swallow everything in the world. He did not know how long it lasted. The young lady's voice suddenly stopped. After several breaths of silence, her voice was a little hoarse. A low sigh, overflowing from her lips. Ah Xian, I miss you, another set of rustic words of love. But in the end, at the very end, she only had the words, miss you, to express everything in her heart. The man's shimmering peach blossom eyes seemed to have light floating, captivating one's soul. He slightly raised his hand, caressed the netherworld dragon ring on his fingertip, as if he could caress the young lady's face through the air. Miss her. He missed her too. Wanted to hold her in his arms, to hug her tightly, to touch her body temperature, to smell the fragrance on her body, to feel her by his side, just at this moment. Suddenly, from the other side of the ring, came the young lady's slightly tense voice. Zhu Xian, what are you doing here again? The man's pupils suddenly contracted. On the other side of the room, Yiqing Luo was staring at the profound phoenix ring in a daze. She couldn't wait to leap into Dmo Xian's arms through the profound phoenix ring. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Her emotions immediately tensed up. She jumped up from the bed and saw Zhu Wuxin walking in with a cold expression. Zhu Wuxin's expression was cold, and there seemed to be some sort of emotion in his eyes. It was extremely frightening. Zhu Wuxin, what are you doing here again? Yiqing Luo clutched the profound phoenix ring tightly, her heart thumped hard. Surely it couldn't be that. Zhu Xian had discovered that she had made contact with Dmo Xian. His complexion was extremely frightening. Without saying a word, Zhu Wuxin slowly approached her. An invisible pressure poured down on them. The air seemed to be frozen into frost. She stared at Zhu Xian's gloomy face and clenched her fingers tightly. Zhu Xian, what exactly do you want to do? Ah! Her wrist was forcefully grabbed by Zhu Wuxin. That wide palm was extremely powerful. Pressing both her arms, he pressed her body onto the bed. Yiqing Luo's expression instantly turned extremely ugly as her voice revealed a chilly tone. Zhu Xian, do you know what you're doing? I've never been more clear-headed than now. Zhu Xian looked at her from above, and between his brows was a deep coldness which Yiqing Luo couldn't understand. Please remember this book's domain name. Com, Wonderful Book House mobile version website. Com. Chapter 4399. His pair of cold eyes reflected the girl's cold and elegant and exquisite face that could topple cities. His long slender fingers slowly caressed Yiqing Luo's delicate face. His fingertips moved gently towards her lips. Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed past, and in this dim room, it revealed a chilly glint. Zhu Xian, if you dare to make another move, I will make you unable to be a man for the rest of your life. Her tone was filled with an eerie chill. Her alluring eyes were filled with endless enmity towards men. That sinister gaze pierced Zhu Wuxian's eyes. He pursed his thin lips tightly as his chest seemed to be accumulating some kind of unsuppressible emotion. Hall Master's words kept reverberating in his mind. His eyes were filled with black whirlpools as it turned more and more berserk. Yiqing Luo could clearly feel the aura of death from Zhu Wuxian's body. That icy cold feeling as though it was isolated from the world. It made her a little apprehensive. Move aside. Her voice deepened. Zhu Wuxian gave a low laugh as his long hair poured down onto Yiqing Luo's body. Yiqing Luo, I've said this before. I won't let go. His tone was mixed with a craziness which he himself didn't even notice. Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes squinted slightly as her eyes were filled with coldness and indifference. Zhu Wuxian, you asked for this yourself. Her words had just ended. Her legs suddenly bent upwards as she used all her strength to knock against the man's crotch. Her action was very sudden. Plus, Zhu Wuxian totally didn't expect that Yiqing Luo, who had lost her profound energy, would have any power to retaliate. This time, it was a heart-wrenching pain. No matter how indifferent Zhu Wuxian was, he was in so much pain that his forehead was oozing with cold sweat. Yiqing Luo took the opportunity to escape from his body. Immediately following that, her fingertips moved. Some white powder floated in the air. Following that, she didn't even take a look at Zhu Wuxian as her figure speedily shifted towards the door. Yiqing Luo. Zhu Wuxian staggered as he chased after her. Because of the pain somewhere, every step he took seemed as though he was stepping on a sharp knife. He chased to the door. He held onto the door with one hand as his expression was cold. Stand right there. Yiqing Luo seemed as though she hadn't heard what he said. He quickly rushed out of the courtyard. Zhu Wuxin wanted to give chase. However, his entire body felt as if there were sharp blades stabbing into his lower abdomen one by one. Along with the place which Yiqing Luo had kicked earlier. The pain was getting more and more indescribable. Wuxin. The hall master also wanted to come over and check on the current progress. The moment he arrived, he saw Zhu Wuxin lying at the door, twitching in pain. He quickly rushed over and helped Zhu Wuxin up. What happened? Where's that little girl? Zhu Wuxin grabbed his wrist with the back of his hand. His palms were full of cold sweat. That deathly pale face seemed to be filled with extreme pain. He enunciated each word with an ice-cold gaze. Catch her, don't let her escape. Don't. This was the first time the hall master had seen Zhu Wuxin in such a sorry state. The palace lord looked at Zhu Wuxin's appearance, then at his slightly bent body, as if he was in extreme pain somewhere. The expression on his face was very complicated. He patted Zhu Wuxin's shoulder. This is the enchantment that you've conjured, she can't escape. But are you sure you don't want to cure the poison first? His gaze fell onto a certain part of Zhu Wuxin. You must know that this part of a man is very important. If you're not careful, in the future you might. Please remember this book's domain name. Com, Wonderful Book House mobile version website. Com. Chapter 4400. Zhu Wuxian's eyes suddenly blurred. The image of the young girl looking at him with hostility and an ashen face appeared in his mind. He could still hear the girl's cold words ringing in his ears. I will make it so that you can never be a man. She was referring to, is that it? Once, after being removed from her world. She would not be soft-hearted. In her heart. Right now, he was just an enemy. Wuxian. I'll detoxify you first. The temple master looked at him with a pale face and a bitter smile on his face. He gritted his teeth and carried him up. Zhu Wuxin's breathing was tight. His voice was pained, but it was filled with determination. Find her. I want her to personally cure me of the poison. He could not possibly let go of Yiqing Luo. Even if she hated him, it didn't matter. Even if he was treated as an enemy, it didn't matter. He must keep her by his side. Zhu Wuxin. The leader of the temple gnashed his teeth and glared at Zhu Wuxin. What have I done to deserve a brother like you? He carried her into the room. Just as he was about to press the other party onto the bed, Zhu Wuxin's hand gripped it tightly. Don't touch her bed. The palace master's movements paused. Why are you so hard to please? Zhu Wuxin forcefully closed his eyes. The intense pain from his lower abdomen caused large beads of cold sweat to appear on his forehead. Put me on the ground, he said with difficulty. Temple Master, are you sick? Yi Qing Luo, she doesn't wish for her place to be tainted with my scent. Chu Wu Xian lowered his head slightly, as his voice was so light that there was only a breath left. As his words fell, the surrounding atmosphere was so low that it was a little terrifying. You're really sick. The temple master endured for a long time before swallowing the last few words. He took a deep breath and calmed himself down. Then, he carried the man to the corner of the room and made him lean against the wall. He pressed Zhu Wuxin against the wall, untied his outer robe, and covered Zhu Wuxin with it. He was about to get up. His gaze swept past Zhu Wuxin's face. His movements suddenly paused, his eyes staring unblinkingly at Zhu Wuxian's face. Wuxin, you. The hall master's pupils dilated slightly, as if he had received a great shock. What did he see? Zhu Wuxin's deep and dark eyes that were like deep pools were actually filled with thick black mist. The mist was spreading through the building. One could faintly see the infatuation in Zhu Wuxian's eyes, as well as his deep obsession towards Yi Qing Luo. What was going on? Why was there such a strange feeling on Wuxian's body? The temple master was just about to reach out and touch Zhu Wuxin's eyes. He had just raised his hand, but he hadn't even gotten close. Zhu Wuxin raised his hand and slapped him down. Go after them. Bring her back. She can't escape, she can't escape. His hoarse voice was bone-chilling. However, there was also a sense of treachery that made one's hair stand on end. The temple master felt even more uneasy and strange. However, under Zhu Wuxin's urging, he took a deep look at Zhu Wuxian before turning around and leaving the room. After Yi Qing Luo left this courtyard, she speedily headed towards that ancient tree. In the profound phoenix ring, the man's voice had already been cut off. Perhaps earlier when Zhu Wuxian was pressing down on her arm, it had cut off the connection between her and Dmo Xian. Not knowing, earlier Zhu Wuxian's voice was not heard by Ah Xian. If he heard it, and the connection between them was suddenly cut off, Ah Xian he would definitely be extremely anxious. Yi Qing Luo maintained her own emotions as her voice was indifferent. Whether to accept him or not is my business. Don't force your own thoughts onto Zhu Wuxian and me. Wuxin is my brother. The ruthlessness in the palace master's eyes intensified. You even put that kind of poison on him. Come with me to cure the poison immediately. Yi Qing Luo sneered, thanks to you, isn't it because of you that he became like this? The palace master's face turned pale, and his figure suddenly moved. His wide sleeves rustled in the air, giving off a loud sound. The profound waves surged wantonly, like a raging hurricane, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws at Yi Qing Luo, as though it wanted to swallow her up. I say. The young lady's red lips were charming as it rose slightly. Have you liked Zhu Wuxian for a long time? Chapter 4402. The surrounding turbulent hurricanes rushed towards Yi Qing Luo at the instance. It suddenly stopped. As though the pause button had been pressed. Everything in the surroundings froze in that instant. Several breaths. Bam bam bam. Overbearing profound rays exploded in the surroundings. With Yi Qing Luo and the rest as the core. The surrounding flower beds and trees were all exploded and collapsed, turning into ruins. A horrifying aura that made one's heart palpitate instantly spread out. The environment had been destroyed to such a state. But the few people standing in the middle were totally unscathed. The young lady stood against the wind, dressed in a fiery red robe, looking magnificent. Her brows were as calm as water. Her dark red lips curled into a charming cold arc. On her face, there was no change of emotions. As though, she was completely certain that he didn't dare to make a move. Or perhaps, she had her own trump card. She was not afraid of any of his actions. Obviously. Those two young girls who didn't know how to speak had already fainted from fright. But she was unmoved. The palace lord's half-squinted eyes seemed to be filled with frost. What are you saying? He practically squeezed each word out from the slits of his teeth. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows. Her long and thick lashes were like butterfly wings. As it fluttered, projecting a beautiful fox shadow. Looks like, I've guessed your thoughts. Yi Qing Luo. The palace lord's expression congealed as his hands clenched into fists. I don't know why you would have such a ridiculous thought, but I'm telling you. Just because you don't like Wu Xian, don't slander his feelings towards you. His eyes turned darker and darker. But it was strangely resolute. You cannot accept him, don't like him, but absolutely cannot deny that he loves you in that heart. Yi Qing Luo's smile slowly froze on her face. Her eyelashes fanned and the expression on her face had lost that coldness. Sky-profound palace lord, everyone's feelings, only he himself knows. She sighed slightly. How can you be sure that the person he really loves is me? I understand him. The palace lord looked at her fixedly. Perhaps even he himself doesn't know how deep his feelings for you are. He paused for a moment. The expression on the palace master's face also became serious. Wu Xian is different from normal people. The life he has lived since he was young is also different from ours. The way he treated things and people, to him, was either to possess or to destroy. Only you, he wanted you, but he couldn't have you, and he couldn't bear to destroy you. Needless to say, he loves you so much that he can't even free himself from it. Although, he did a lot of things that you couldn't agree with. But that's the way he loves you. Everyone loves in a different way. He just loves you the way he loves you. Whether you accept it or not, he loves you. You can't deny this. Hearing the hall master's resolute and sincere words, Zhang Xian felt a chill run down his spine. How could Yi Qing Luo's heart not be shocked? Perhaps she could vaguely feel it. The person Chu Wu Xian was clinging to was not only that Xiao Qing Luo who had given him warmth and gentleness. There was also her, whom he had been pestering but had been repeatedly rejected. However, she did not want to think about the thoughts of men other than Xian. She didn't want to give any man other than Xian any hope. So she directly ignored all of Chu Wu Xian's feelings, placing Chu Wu Xian in a position that seemed like an enemy yet a friend. But today, the palace lord had pointed it out directly. She had no choice but to face this problem. End of this chapter. Chapter 4403. Yi Qing Luo's eyelashes finally had a slight reaction. Her slender brows rose as her long and narrow eyes were filled with complicated emotions which no one could understand. As though she was smiling. Or as though she was ridiculing him. So you feel that I should accept his feelings just because he has deep feelings for me? The young lady's tone was filled with slight ridicule. Hall Master went into a blank for a moment but quickly replied, you should know that he only wishes for you to stay by his side. He wants me to accompany him, so I must accompany him. Yi Qing Luo sneered, what on earth does he treat me as? Hall Master was slightly dazed by Yi Qing Luo's reaction. Generally speaking, when a lady heard such words, even if she had no feelings towards Zhu Wu Xian, she would at least feel touched. Why was it that this young lady still ridiculed him at the slightest disagreement? After a long time, he gazed deeply at Yi Qing Luo as he said word by word, Yi Qing Luo, the reason why I'm saying all these is not because I want you to accept his feelings, but I hope that you can understand Wu Xian's feelings towards you. Just like earlier, you guessed that I have an improper relationship with him. This kind of words is an insult to his feelings towards you. She could tell. Hall Master really cared about Zhu Wu Xian very much. This kind of feelings was not mixed with any other things. She gently curled her lips as her exquisite brows were filled with complicated emotions. Then, I also hope that you can understand that it's impossible for me to accept his feelings, and I don't want to understand his feelings towards me. There was a hint of coldness in her voice. Her tone was indifferent, without much ripples, so. Move aside, I want to leave this place. Hall Master's handsome face frowned tightly. You this woman, why is your heart made of stone? I've said so much and you haven't heard a single word? It's not that I have a heart made of stone, but my heart cannot accommodate a second person. Yi Qing Luo took a step back. Her fingers moved. A burst of flame started burning from her fingertip. Move aside. Even if I step aside, you won't be able to leave this place. The palace master stared at the leaping flames on her fingertips. Didn't you lose your profound strength? Whether I can leave or not is my own business. Yi Qing Luo's voice had just landed when the raging flame on her fingertips had already been waved out. When the small ball was swung out. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a fire dragon and burst out of the hole. Boundless waves of fire surged into the sky. Even the surrounding air hissed under these intense flames. The handsome face of the hall master frowned. Woman, why are you so cold-hearted? I've said so much, but you didn't listen to a single word? It's not that I have a heart of stone, but there's no room for a second person in my heart. Yi Qing Luo took a step back. She moved her fingers. A wisp of flame burned on her fingertip. Get out of my way. Even if I step aside, you won't be able to leave this place. The hall master stared at the leaping flames on her fingertips. Haven't you lost your profound energy? Whether I can leave or not is my own business. Yi Qing Luo's words had just landed when the raging flame on her fingertips was already waved out. In an instant, it turned into a fire dragon, breaking out of the hole. The majestic waves of fire set off huge waves. The surrounding air, under this intense flame, gave out a hissing, burning sound. The majestic waves of fire set off huge waves. The surrounding air, under this intense flame, gave out a hissing, burning sound. End of this chapter. Chapter 4404. He's getting serious. With a flap of Qi Yan's wings, the fire wave was blown away. Then it flapped its wings and flew one round around Yi Qing Luo. The overlord isn't around, so the men you've provoked, one after another. Yi Qing Luo raised her hand and slapped Qi Yan's head. Don't speak if you don't know how to speak. What did he mean by she had provoked man after man? It was these men who were sick, okay? Qi Yan was almost hit by the palace lord's attack. He looked at the girl who had already run ahead of him. It was so angry that its little mouth pricked Yi Qing Luo's body. If you dare to touch this sacred beast again, this sacred beast will not care about you anymore and let you be smacked to death by that man. Yi Qing Luo. Suddenly, a palm wind landed heavily on the road in front of Yi Qing Luo. In an instant, gravel flew in all directions, and a huge crater was blasted open on the small path ahead. It also sealed off Yi Qing Luo's escape route. The palace lord chased up to Yi Qing Luo's back, and on seeing her stop in her footsteps, he also stopped in his tracks. Follow me back, Wu Xian is waiting for you. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as she stared at the deep pit in front of her. The surrounding roads had been blasted into smithereens and she had no place to land her feet at all. With her current situation, where she did not have any profound energy at all, there was no way for her to cross the deep pit from the sky. She slowly turned around and looked at the man behind her. She laughed mockingly. Lord Palace Lord, I no longer doubt that you like Zhu Wuxin. I say, have you taken a fancy to me? The temple master's face darkened. Do you think I'm as blind as Zhu Wuxin? Yi Qing Luo. What the hell was blind? Hall master's face turned black as he continued, Yi Qing Luo, don't force me to bring you to Wu Xian's side forcefully. Wu Xian doesn't want to see you getting hurt, but if you insist on forcing me, I don't mind using a pole to carry you over. I told you, I won't be by his side. Yi Qing Luo raised her head slightly, her fair neck, the lines were smooth and beautiful. If you want to see Zhu Wu Xian really become a cripple. I don't mind, you carry me over. Anyway, he was the one who needed her help now. The hall master's face darkened further. He really couldn't understand. How could his brother fall in love with such a cold-hearted woman? He pursed his lips, his voice was tense, and his emotions were on the verge of collapse. You rejected Wu Xin because you don't understand her. If you spend some time with Heartless, you will definitely fall in love with him. Yi Qing Luo. Now it was changed to a conciliatory policy? This thought had just flashed through his mind. Suddenly, a figure flashed in front of him. The palace master's sudden movement had already caused him to appear in front of her in a flash. Holy **T. He actually dared to play dirty. She had overestimated the palace master's integrity. Yi Qing Luo's hand was directly grabbed by the hall master. The path ahead was already a pitch-black deep pit, and she had no way out at all. When the palace master approached, the raging flames around him bared their fangs and brandished their claws, trying to devour the temple master. But he had no intention of dodging. Just like that. Facing the pain of being burned by the raging flames, he forcefully charged into the flames and arrived in front of her. This hall master was really going all out for Zhu Wuxin. Yi Qing Luo took a look at the hand which was locked on her arm, and following that hand, she looked at the palace master. His face was still as calm as before, not a hint of impatience could be seen. After meeting the palace master's gaze. Chapter 4405. Trying to use the same method to deal with Wu Xian to deal with me? Palace Lord gave a faint smile. You can try. Why should I waste such a precious medicine on you? Yi Qing Luo smiled as she shook her head. I wonder if Palace Lord has tasted human meat before? Palace Lord replied, no. Yi Qing Luo's gaze fell onto his hand. Now, the taste of roasted human meat, Palace Lord can have a taste. In other words, she disdained to poison him. But, the vermilion bird's fire, would teach him how to be a man. Palace Lord naturally understood the deep meaning behind it. But, his hand, had no intention to let go. On the contrary, his palm gripped her arm even more tightly. As he slightly bent over, his handsome face inched closer to her ear. The loose robe revealed a large portion of his skin. Yi Qing Luo only needed to shift her gaze slightly and she was able to see the skin under the loose robe. Yi Qing Luo. Should she ridicule, was this guy an exhibitionist? She had no intention of admiring his skin. So, what on earth was he trying to do? Taking the opportunity to molest her? Yi Qing Luo's eyes flashed past a glint. Just as she was about to raise her hand, to roast human meat, into actual action. Suddenly, a pair of strong and powerful arms went around her shoulders from behind, locking her down. Her back was pressed into a broad embrace. The elegant sandalwood fragrance instantly permeated her entire nose. Bam! In front of her, that person who was locking her arm suddenly flew out. He was still in mid-air, spinning rapidly for a few rounds, before crashing heavily onto the wall at the side. Profound Palace Lord. How dare you touch this lord's person? The man's cold voice was mellow, disdainful. This sudden turn of events. Yi Qing Luo had no time to care, nor was she interested, to bother about it. Since that aura had completely enveloped her. Her body tensed up tightly. Her eyes uncontrollably reddened. The man's temperature, the man's scent, and that mellow voice, all crazily crashed into her head. Ah Xian. Her voice couldn't stop the slight tremble. Joy and shock were mixed in. After shouting out this word. In the end, she couldn't help turning around in the man's arms. She raised her head, and in her eyes that were blurred by tears, the man's peerlessly handsome face was reflected. He also lowered his head. Her peach blossom eyes were filled with love and tenderness. When their eyes met, it was as if there were only the two of them in the world. The girl's soft arms tightly wrapped around the man's waist. Her cheek was pressed against his chest. She listened to his powerful heartbeat. The emptiness in his heart was slowly being filled. Lil Luo, I'm here to pick you up. The man's low and mellow voice was dark and husky, and his beautiful voice tugged at her heartstrings. This sentence, a few simple words. But it forced Yiqing Luo to forcibly hold back her tears, as it flowed down from the corners of her eyes. She rubbed her face against the man's chest. Dmo Xian allowed her to do whatever she wanted. The tenderness in his eyes could almost cloy someone to death. His hands were tightly wrapped around the girl's delicate body, as though he wanted to rub her into his body. I want to hug you, I've thought about it for a long time. He cupped the young girl's face, and in his peach blossom eyes, there were layers of gentle spring water. He bent his head, and kissed the young girl's lips hard. I want to kiss you, I've thought about it for a long time. His lips were domineering and boiling hot. That kind of overbearingness could not be resisted. Chapter 4406. Dmo Xian was unable to use words to describe his current feelings. His stomach was filled with joy, and satisfaction. It almost made his body and mind burst apart. In this world, only his little Luo, was able to stir up his emotions. No one knew. After he and Yiqing Luo finally established a connection. Haven't had time to walk to her side. He heard her exclamation of Zhu Wu Xian ringing beside his ear. That tone was obviously different from usual. He anxiously wanted to ask Yiqing Luo what exactly had happened. But the connection between the two of them suddenly was cut off. At that time, just how chaotic and anxious was his heart. No one knew. The moment he thought that something might happen to Yiqing Luo, the viciousness and rage in his heart kept on surging. He had no way to control his thoughts. Even before, if Yiqing Luo was hurt in the slightest, he wanted the entire world to be buried with her. This kind of thinking. Luckily, she was fine. His little Luo, was fine. Otherwise, he really didn't know what he would do. Dmo Xian hugged the young lady in his arms tightly. The passionate kiss almost swallowed the young lady into his stomach. From this kiss, Yiqing Luo could deeply feel the man's longing for her, his concern for her, the importance he placed on her, so many emotions. She could feel it clearly. The two's warmth and sweetness. It fell into the eyes of the hall master who was sent flying not too far away. He gazed deeply at this beautiful scene in front of him. For a long time, he was unable to shift his eyes away. After a long time. Only then did he slowly put his hand on his waist and abdomen. There was a long jade pendant hanging from his loose waist. Qin Yi swayed back and forth as he chuckled mockingly. You've heard it too. Their relationship is one that no one can interfere with. Only standing by the side to watch this scene. The hall master felt that his heart was being tugged by some kind of emotion, with a shocking feeling. In the world of those two, there was no place for a third person to exist. It was no wonder. No matter what, Yiqing Luo would not take another look at Zhu Wu Xian. All of her gentleness and the sweetness that belonged to a little girl were only given to that one man. Meanwhile, far away in a room in the courtyard, his entire body was in so much pain that he broke out in a cold sweat. His face was as pale as a sheet as he cowered in the corner of the room. He raised a hand and covered his eyes. He tried to hide the pain in his eyes. At this moment, a slender figure quietly entered the room. Step by step, he stood in front of the man. It was completely silent. What are you doing here? Zhu Wuxin did not move his hand away, nor did he look at anyone. His voice was cold and emotionless. The slender figure slowly walked to his side. If I didn't come, were you planning to kill yourself here, and then, make her feel guilty towards you? The woman's voice was clear and sweet. Zhu Wuxin still didn't move. Scram. The slender figure seemed to be used to Zhu Wuxin's coldness. She reached out and held Zhu Wuxin's arm. As soon as it touched him, Zhu Wuxin shook him off forcefully. The woman lost her balance as she fell onto the ground. Zhu Wuxin leaned against the wall as an eerily cold intent filled his eyes. I asked you to scram. The woman slowly got up from the ground. She didn't even pat the dust off her body as she walked to Zhu Wuxin's side without any change in expression as she continued to support him. Chapter 4407. Zhu Wuxin, just give up. The woman's voice was indifferent and calm. No matter how you torture yourself, she won't feel any guilt towards you. What you're doing is just in vain. As her voice faded away, the man's hand directly intercepted her outstretched hand. Zhu Wuxin looked coldly at the woman in front of him. The woman was dressed in a long gown that was flamboyant and eye-catching. The most eye-catching thing was the red embroidery on her gown, which spread out like flowers blooming in blood. Her delicate and beautiful face was pure and beautiful. But there was a hint of disdain in her eyes. Her expression was very indifferent. When she met Zhu Wuxin's eyes, there was not much change in her expression. Zhu Wuxin. She spoke again. Dizun has already broken your barrier. Are you sure you can still keep her in your current state? Zhu Wuxin's eyes were ice cold. They were as deep as a bottomless pool. The woman did not say anything more and continued to support him. Zhu Wuxin's face froze slightly, and the frost on his face became even colder. But, this time, he did not shake off the woman again. He let the woman help him up. His hand rested on her delicate shoulder, and all the weight of his body pressed on the woman. The woman's delicate body swayed slightly. But she still forced herself to carry Zhu Wuxin to the bedside. Don't put me on her bed. Zhu Wuxin held the woman's arm tightly. She wouldn't like it. When he lowered his eyes seemed to be shrouded by a black fog. The woman pursed her lips, took a deep breath, and supported him out of the room. The place below Zhu Wuxin's lower abdomen hurt more and more as he walked. Cold sweat slid down and dripped on his eyelashes. His ice-cold eyes were blurred. In a trance, the voice that was transmitted into his ears through the jade pendant of the temple master as a medium was still echoing in his ears. No one can intervene in their relationship. No one can intervene in their relationship. No one can intervene in their relationship. No one. But, he couldn't accept it. That girl should have belonged to him. He was the one who first met her. The black mist surging in Zhu Wuxian's eyes became even more rampant. The other side. Dmo Xian carried Yiqing Luo in his arms. Let's go. Yiqing Luo looped her arms around his neck and nodded smilingly. I've suddenly disappeared for so many days, everyone must be worried about me. Cough, a light cough came from the side. The palace lord stood up shakily from the ruins. As he patted off the dust on his body, he raised his head and looked at Yiqing Luo. Both of you. This lovey-dovey act, isn't it a little too much? His loose robe already had several holes in it. He was in a sorry state. Dmo Xian indifferently shot a glance at the palace lord. The imposing glare between his brows made one feel pressured. Do you think that you can stop this, lord? Of course I won't seek my own death. The palace lord raised his sleeve and wiped off the blood on the corner of his lips. But, I don't want you to leave so easily. Yiqing Luo shifted her vision towards the direction of the palace lord. The man's handsome face was pale. The corners of his lips were stained with blood, but it couldn't hide the whiteness of his lips. Apparently, the injury from Dmo Xian's strike earlier wasn't light. Chapter 4408. But, even so, he still stabilized his figure and blocked in front of the both of them. Move aside. Dmo Xian lost his patience as his eyes turned sinister. Hall Master gathered his loose robe. the Overlord is here personally, so I naturally can't stop you. But... Yi Qing Luo. Before he could finish his words, an item was shot towards his face. The Hall Master subconsciously caught the item. He opened his hand to take a look. It was a medicine bottle. The icy cold touch was emitting a faint medicinal fragrance. I've passed the item to you, don't block the way. Yi Qing Luo adjusted her position in Dmo Xian's arms. Her long and narrow eyes narrowed slightly, and there was even a hint of mockery in them. I say, you've really fallen for Zhu Wu Xian, haven't you? For Zhu Wu Xian, you can even throw away your life. Yi Qing Luo expressed that she really saw from Hall Master and Zhu Wu Xian something which made her Fujoshi soul burn. So she couldn't be blamed for thinking in this way. Hall Master fixed his eyes on the medicine bottle in his palm. This is the antidote? Yi Qing Luo shrugged. You can choose not to believe. Dmo Xian carried her as he walked past Hall Master. Hall Master stared at the medicine bottle in his hand as though he was hesitating, but he didn't stop them from leaving. After walking for a distance, Hall Master suddenly tightened the medicine bottle as he raised his head and looked towards the direction where Dmo Xian and Yi Qing Luo had left. Coincidentally, the young lady was hooking the man's neck as she patted his head, indicating for him to stop. This action on the Overlord, it totally subverted everyone's understanding. But Dmo Xian's face didn't show any signs of displeasure. Instead, he stopped in his tracks as he held the young lady's hand, which was pressed on his head. His gaze was gentle and affectionate. Everyone could see that. How much importance did the Overlord place on Yi Qing Luo? No wonder Yi Qing Luo would fall deeply into the Overlord and not choose Zhu Wu Xian. Hall Master swallowed back the words which were at the tip of his tongue. But that young lady who happened to meet his eyes slightly raised her red lips as her smile was extremely cold. Help me pass a message to Zhu Wu Xian. Her voice was clear and cold. There weren't many emotions in it. I will remember what he did clearly. He won't have another chance. His words fell. A gust of wind blew over. The two figures in front of him had already disappeared. The Temple Master grabbed the bottle and took 2 steps forward. What do you mean by that? What next chance? Archer. A familiar voice suddenly sounded behind him. The Palace Master's body suddenly stiffened. The expression on his face changed several times. Finally, the corners of his mouth curled up into a smile. He slowly turned around and said, Qing Bing, why are you? He stopped talking when he saw the person behind him. His gaze fell on the man beside the woman, who was in so much pain that he was covered in cold sweat. Zhu Wuxin, what the hell are you doing? The Temple Master was so angry that he rushed forward and grabbed Zhu Wuxin from the woman's hands. Zhu Wuxin grabbed his arm tightly, his cold eyes searching around. Where is she? Where is she? You still have the mood to ask her. The Temple Master clenched his teeth as he opened the bottle. Don't you know your own situation? I asked you to rest in your room, but can't you just listen to me? Are you going to torture yourself until you're crippled before you're satisfied? This book came from Chapter 4409. The Temple Master poured out an elixir and wanted to feed it to him. But his wrist was firmly held by Zhu Wuxin. Where is she? Where is she? His grip was extremely strong. The Temple Master's hand was shaken and he almost dropped the bottle on the ground. His eyes suddenly darkened, and his face turned ashen and ugly. He suddenly stood up and shook off Zhu Wuxin's hand. Where is she? Where is she? Do you only know how to ask where she is? Do you know why I'm here? I'm worried about you and care about you. That's why I came here from so far away. I don't want to see you torture yourself here. You want to know where she is, don't you? Let me tell you, she left with Di Zun. She left with Di Zun. She left without any hesitation and without any hesitation. The Temple Master bellowed angrily. He grabbed the jade pendant at his waist and threw it heavily on Zhu Wuxin. You heard what she asked me to tell you with your own ears, didn't you? Do you need me to repeat it? The jade pendant hit Zhu Wuxin's body. Pushed by the temple master, Zhu Wuxin staggered and fell to the ground even with the help of the woman. The jade pendant hit him. Zhu Wuxin's cold eyes slightly shrank. But he still said nothing. The temple master clenched his fists, raised his head slightly, and took a deep breath. He tried his best to control his emotions. Then, he stared at Zhu Wuxin and said word by word, "She said that she will remember clearly what you have done. You won't have a second chance." His every word caused Zhu Wuxin's body to tense up even more. A gloomy aura emanated from Zhu Wuxin's body. The surrounding air seemed to have solidified. The palace master did not stop speaking because of Zhu Wuxian's silent protest. "Zhu Wuxian, you should know better than anyone else what her words mean." The only person she could see and keep in her heart was the venerable sovereign. Is it useful to torture yourself? Is it useful? Archer. When the woman heard the palace master's words, which were getting more and more out of control, she immediately frowned and snapped at him. The palace master's body suddenly stiffened. His gaze, which was filled with pain and anger, slowly landed on the woman. The woman pursed her red lips and opened her mouth as if she wanted to say something. However, when he glanced sideways at Zhu Wuxin, he pursed his lips. The palace master shut his eyes tightly and raised his hand high. He wanted to throw the medicine bottle at Zhu Wuxin. But when he was about to fling it out, he gritted his teeth and retracted his strength, throwing it at Zhu Wuxin just like that. The medicine bottle rolled and rolled to Zhu Wuxin's feet. The hall master turned around and said in a tense tone, "It's up to you whether you want to live or die. I don't care anymore." After saying that, he flicked his sleeve and disappeared before their eyes. "Archer," the young woman called out anxiously. However, before she could do anything, his aura was completely gone. The woman felt helpless. She looked at the pale man beside her, whose face was filled with pain. She sighed as she slowly picked up the medicine bottle. Her exquisite face was filled with complicated emotions. "Wuxin." The woman poured out the last pill from the bottle and placed it by Zhu Wuxin's mouth as she spoke softly, "Archer cares about you too much. He's angry, not because you like Yi Qing Luo, but because he can't take it anymore. You hurt yourself because of a woman." The pill was placed by his lips, but Zhu Wuxin didn't open his mouth. There was no expression on his face. His gaze was slightly dazed. This book came from Chapter 44:10. The lady's fingers which were holding onto the pill tightened as her slender fingers turned slightly white. He cares about you more than anyone else. You should know this better than anyone else. Zhu Wuxian finally had a little reaction. His eyelashes trembled slightly. He slowly raised his head and looked at the lady. The lady hurriedly moved that pill to his lips. "Don't let the people who still care about you worry about you. You being in this state, we will all be very upset." The woman's face was slowly reflected in Zhu Wuxin's cold eyes. He opened his mouth and swallowed that pill into his stomach. The lady heaved a sigh of relief and continued, "Don't be too sad. That person gave you the antidote, which means that he can't bear to really hurt you." Zhu Wuxian's eyelashes trembled even more. His eyes were fixed on the woman without blinking. The lady smiled slightly. "After your body has recovered, go look for Che. Now that the Overlord has already come to Heaven Realm, in this state of yours, how are you going to fight with the Overlord, right? Dmo Xian." Zhu Wuxian's thin lips pursed slightly. He muttered these 3 words softly. Suddenly, he struggled free from the lady's support as he staggered as he stood up. "No. Yi Qing Luo cannot leave this place." Zhu Wuxian. The lady's suppressed emotions finally couldn't hold it in any longer. "How much longer are you going to create a ruckus for? Have you really never thought about us?" Zhu Wuxian clenched his fists tightly as his expression was gloomy and gloomy. The black fog in his eyes started to spread. "The rankings are about to begin. She must stay here. I cannot let anything happen to her. Chu Wu Xian's voice and the fluctuation of his emotions was extremely huge. His words had just ended. He had already dashed towards the direction where Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian had disappeared to. When he passed by the lady, his body collided heavily with the lady's shoulder. But he didn't turn back. The lady staggered backwards from the impact. After she finally stabilized herself, she slowly raised her head and looked at the man who was swaying but still forcing himself to move forward. She took a step forward, wanting to chase after him. But after taking a step, she stopped. Unknowingly, her eyes started to blur. Why? He would never be able to see her existence. Outside the Tianya Ridge, the group of people waited anxiously for the return of the Overlord. Time passed slowly. 2 hours, 4 hours, the more time passed, the higher everyone's heart was. Especially in the Tianya Ridge, there was not the slightest fluctuation. It was impossible to guess what the Overlord had encountered in there. Kitty Lee paced around anxiously. Why hasn't Dizun brother-in-law come out yet? Did he find his sister? Can't we go in and look for Dizun brother-in-law? Zhou Mo pulled Kitty Lee into his arms and comforted her gently. Believe in Dizun. Let's wait a little longer. If Dizun doesn't come out in an hour, Wu and I will go in and take a look. You. Kitty Lee quickly grabbed Zhou Mo's collar and raised her head. I don't want you to go in. Zhou Mo chuckled and kissed her forehead. It's okay. Don't worry. Right. She will definitely be fine. The Overlord is so incredible and our Qing Luo. She herself is a miracle, so nothing will happen to her. Yan Xiao Yi used a certain tone to reply. But the way she gripped Qiao Jin's arm tightly betrayed the anxiety in her heart. This book came from Chapter 44:11. Don't let your imagination run wild. Huan Fuxing raised his voice to cheer everyone up. Our Luo can bring us miracles one after another, so no matter when, as long as you are by her side, there will definitely be miracles. Their Yiqing Luo, their faith. Absolutely undefeatable. The few of them looked at each other, conveying the determination in their hearts to the other party. Just at this moment, Gue Wu, who was leaning against the tree trunk with his eyes closed, suddenly moved and landed in front of everyone. His expression was solemn as he stared ahead. Who's there? Gue Wu's words made everyone's emotions congealed. Zhou Mo swiftly stuffed Kitty Lee behind his back as he looked ahead vigilantly. Swish, 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 in the dense forest, suddenly countless sharp arrows were shot from all directions. The speed was fast and the momentum was violent. It was extremely shocking. What? Their reaction speed was extremely fast. When Gue Wu opened his mouth, everyone quickly switched to defensive mode. When the sharp arrows were shot down, everyone had already raised the weapons in their hands and slashed out all the sharp arrows. At this moment, Gue Wu also quickly formed an enchantment, enveloping everyone within it. There was still no sign of anyone in the surroundings. But thousands of sharp arrows were still shooting over. Bam! The sharp arrows were flickering with cold silver light as they heavily crashed onto the enchantment. 2 waves of qi collided, giving off a sharp ear-piercing sound. The sudden explosion of the profound waves set off layers upon layers of flying sand waves in the lush dense forest. What's that? What's going on? The group of people looked around with a grave expression, trying to find traces of someone. And at the same time, in the midst of the flying sand, everyone saw that a huge crack had suddenly appeared in the horizon. Immediately following that, they saw people dressed in black robes, neatly walking out from that gap. Their pupils shrank immediately. Secluded palace. These people in front of them. Weren't they dressed in the secluded palace's attire? How did this group of monsters come to the heaven realm? And even followed them to Tianya Ridge? That patch of black-robed people, about 100 of them walked out. The gap in the sky slowly closed up. Is it a miracle? A charming voice was exceptionally obvious in this quiet and tense atmosphere. Then, the black-robed man, who had wrapped himself up tightly, slowly opened up a path. A fairy-like young woman in a long white dress walked over with a flirtatious demeanor. The woman covered her red lips sweetly. Her voice was so soft that it could make one's bones go numb. She will have a miracle, but, do you think that you will have a miracle? Everyone's faces turned cold and they quickly gathered together, looking at the woman nervously. Yan Xiaoyi stared at the woman and sized her up. After a long while, a figure suddenly appeared in her mind. You are Bai Mei? This grace was too obvious. However, that face was obviously different from the Bai Mei in his memory. Bai Mei should be in her 30s or 40s. How could he be so young? The woman giggled and touched her face charmingly. I didn't expect that someone would recognize me. But, even if you recognize me, there's no reward. It's really you. Yan Xiaoyi's expression sunk. You actually joined the secluded palace? What do you want to do? Of course I want to kill you all. Bai Mei's brows were filled with smiles. I really want to see Yi Qing Luo's flustered expression. Hurry up and read the latest update. Download address, phone reading. Chapter 44:12. You're here. Doesn't it mean that Qing Luo is really in Tianya Ridge? Huang Fusheng asked. Bai Mei held her chin as she smiled brightly. Don't worry. I will leave you with your last breath and let Yi Qing Luo see you one last time. As she smiled, the hostility between her brows suddenly became sinister. Go. In a split second, the originally dim sky which was covered by the dense forest had completely darkened. Like a huge black fog, it shrouded the entire sky. The strong gale, at this moment, was like a soaring dragon, rolling and blowing everything in the surroundings. Guo Wu's enchantment, under this black fog, was actually on the verge of collapsing. Master Guo Wu. Yan Xiaoyi and the rest leaned against Guo Wu's side, looking ahead vigilantly. Even Guo Wu's enchantment couldn't fight against this sudden surge of energy. The other party came prepared. Guo Wu said expressionlessly, someone is targeting me, you guys be careful. After so many exchanges, how could secluded palace not know of Guo Wu's existence? Guo Wu's voice just landed. Rumble. A deafening explosion was heard, exploding in the air. The strong profound light directly exploded Guo Wu's enchantment. Fortunately, after Guo Wu's reminder, everyone had already made the most appropriate adjustments to themselves. After the enchantment exploded, everyone dodged in time. Without the protection of the enchantment, everyone could clearly feel a vast and powerful pressure, almost squeezing their internal organs, to the point of exploding. Guo Wu was about to open up the enchantment again. Suddenly he saw a figure, rolling out from the crowd. A strong profound wave directly penetrated Guo Wu's unformed enchantment. I'm sorry. My mission today is to stop you. Deliberately using profound energy, the tone of the voice was changed, sounding extremely cold. Yan Xiaoyi's gaze fell on that person. The identity of that person immediately appeared in her mind. Secluded palace. Palace lord on the surface? That person, wasn't he the palace lord of secluded palace on the surface? That palace lord who seemed to have some thoughts about Qing Luo previously? It's him. Hearing that, everyone looked at the palace master of Nether Abyss Palace. Why is he here? No one answered this question. The palace master of the secluded darkness palace directly attacked Guo Wu. His attack was swift and fierce, without the slightest hesitation. Guo Wu walked up expressionlessly. The palace master of the Netherworld Palace moved. The 100 black-robed men that descended from the sky also quickly launched their attacks. In an instant, the air was filled with sinister killing intent. Be careful. Zhou Mo swept his gaze over the group of people beside him, then immediately raised his hand and slashed out a monstrous wave of air, dispersing the incoming hurricane. He hugged the cute girl in his arms tightly, and his voice was solemn, no longer as frivolous as before. I'm afraid Ah Wu won't be able to protect everyone. The other party has more people, and each one of them isn't weak. You have to be careful. He paused for a moment and his pitch suddenly rose as he said word by word, if you want to live to see Shaoqing Luo, then protect yourselves well, don't let yourselves die. Bang! The deafening explosion of the profound wave collided with the violent hurricane. The intense vibration of the profound rays swept through the air. After Zhou Mo's words rang, everyone's tensed-up hearts, at this moment, seemed to be filled with endless battle intent. Between their brows was a look of unswerving determination. Update speed is the fastest, hurry up and read it. Download address, cell phone reading. Chapter 44:13. They wanted to live. Only if they were alive would they be able to see Qing Luo. They absolutely must not become Qing Luo's burden. They absolutely must not drag Yi Qing Luo down. The young lads and young ladies. Under the power of faith of a person named Yi Qing Luo. Each and every one of them actually erupted with a power that was even more shocking than usual. For a time, more than 100 people were unable to easily capture them according to the plan. Instead, it made the other party more courageous as they fought, injuring quite a number of them. Of course, the world group's few people were also heavily injured. The air was filled with a thick stench of blood. Miserable cries reverberated through the entire sky. Bai Mei stood on a big tree by the side as she looked at the scene in front of her with an impatient look. Her charming brows were filled with impatience. Really useless. She kicked away the black-robed man who was sent flying in front of her as the expression on her face turned even more alluring and gaudy. But the viciousness between her brows was filled with murderous intent. Her gaze swept towards the palace lord of Seclusion Palace who was still entangled with Gue Wu but was unable to injure him at all. She suddenly flew up and her majestic profound energy broke through the surging profound wave which was formed when the both of them were entangled. Her figure was swift and violent as she charged towards Gue Wu at lightning speed. Bai Mei's target was very clear. She wanted to finish off Gue Wu together with the palace lord of Seclusion Palace. To them, Gue Wu was the core of these few brats. As long as Gue Wu fell, how long could these few brats continue to be arrogant for? Gue Wu had not expected that someone would suddenly launch a sneak attack. He turned sideways and his palm wind flipped as he struck down horizontally. The profound light opened up a barrier and blocked Bai Mei's attack. The palace lord of Seclusion Palace retracted his hand as he flicked his sleeves and looked sideways at her. What do you mean? Useless trash. Bai Mei didn't conceal her disdain. Trash brought out a bunch of trash and can't even deal with a few trash. Bai Mei. The eyes under the black robe of the palace master of the Netherworld Palace suddenly darkened. His eyes were filled with coldness. Since you have a problem with me, then get out of this mission as soon as possible. Bai Mei rolled her eyes as she gave a sweet ridiculing laugh. Don't think that I don't know what you're thinking about. Still thinking of helping Yi Qing Luo, that little slut, to keep these people alive? Do you think she'll be grateful just because you did that? Bai Mei covered her mouth and continued to mock. She won't. From the moment you became the palace master of the Dark Palace, you and she will only walk two different paths. Shut up. The palace master of the Netherworld Palace snapped. Her tone was filled with rage. Bai Mei, what I'm thinking has nothing to do with you. If you want to do the support mission, then shut your mouth. If you don't want to do the mission, then scram. TSK. Every time you open your mouth, it's about the mission. In that case, our palace master of the Netherworld Palace has completely abandoned all feelings? Bai Mei dragged out her tone as she looked at him with a smile which didn't look like a smile. The palace master of the Netherworld Palace's eyes were extremely cold as he clenched his fist tightly. His fist wind was filled with strong profound energy and the surrounding hurricane also underwent a huge change. Bai Mei raised her brows disapprovingly. Why? Still want to hit me? Why don't you try? The two of them looked like they were at each other's throats as they looked aggressive. Gue Wu's gaze changed slightly as his peripheral vision swept across the crowd, towards the few people who were surrounded by the black-robed men. His emotionless eyes were filled with a slight fluctuation which couldn't be seen. Following that, he leapt up and headed towards the direction of Yan Xiaoyi and the rest. He had just turned around. A cold laugh was heard from his back. Chapter 44:14. Master Gue Wu, haven't you heard of this saying, when fighting, don't easily turn your back to the enemy? Bai Mei giggled delicately. Her laughter was full of killing intent. Gue Wu suddenly stopped in his tracks. His body reacted quickly. He leapt into the air and counterattacked with a backhand. But no matter how fast his reaction was, Bai Mei's piercingly cold profound chi was already heading straight for his fatal spot. The speed was so fast that it carried a strong killing intent. Ah Wu. Zhou Mo had noticed Gue Wu flying towards them just now. Before he had time to face Gue Wu, he saw Bai Mei approaching from behind the ghost martial artist. Master Gue Wu! Master Gue Wu! Everyone shouted worriedly. But there was no one who could stop the imminent attack. This series of events happened in just a few breaths. Bai Mei's piercingly cold attack had already fallen on Gue Wu. Bang bang bang. A loud sound of collisions suddenly rang out. In the air, there seemed to be an explosion of air waves. The surging profound waves were flowing wave after wave. The entire dense forest, the broken branches of trees and grass, were all sent flying into the sky. Bang! Another powerful profound wave fell. Shortly after, a figure was blasted away by the Xian wave. When the figure landed, he violently coughed out a large mouthful of blood. That cough, it was a woman's voice. The one who was sent flying was not Master Gue Wu. Yan Xiaoyi and the others were a little stunned, looking incredulously at Bai Mei, who had fallen to the ground with a twisted face and was vomiting blood. What was going on? The profound wave, under the hurricane, gradually dispersed. Gue Wu's figure was also revealed. He stood where he was, unscathed. Master Gue Wu. Their hearts skipped a few beats. Seeing that Gue Wu was unscathed, they all breathed a sigh of relief. Gue Wu looked at his hands, and then at Bai Mei, who had been sent flying. He slightly knitted his brows. Just as he was about to open his mouth to say something. When he turned his head, he saw that the attention of those people was all focused on him. The black-robed people behind him obviously noticed this and launched an attack together. His face darkened as he shouted, "Do you think you can be distracted on the battlefield?" As his voice fell, he raised the long sword in his hand and threw it at those people. The sword wave caused by the long sword forced the black-robed men to retreat a few steps. They immediately came back to their senses and rejoined the battle. Oh! Bai Mei groaned in pain and crawled up from the ground. She clutched her chest with one hand. He quickly touched his face with one hand to make sure that his face hadn't fallen off. It's her. The voice of the palace master of the Netherworld Palace suddenly became tense. He raised his head and looked at the sky without blinking. Her. Bai Mei furrowed her brows and immediately looked in the direction of the palace master's gaze. That little bitch? Is she finally willing to show up? He raised his head. The disgust and hatred on her face froze on her face. On the horizon, a huge white nine-tailed fox stood in the air. And on top of the nine-tailed fox, sat two figures intimately embracing each other. The girl sitting in front was wearing a blazing red dress, like a blooming fire lotus. Along with the profound wave, her dress fluttered in the wind, like a jumping flame. And behind her, with his arms around the girl's waist, was a man in purple with a cold expression, like an unattainable god, overflowing with youth and peerless elegance. Only when his gaze fell on the girl could one see the gentleness of his face. This scene. It was like a beautiful picture. Chapter 44:15. It's her. It's him. The two of them appeared. Those two figures appeared clearly in front of everyone's eyes. Bai Mei's face froze, slowly became distorted. Her 5 fingers subconsciously clenched tightly into a ball. Whereas the palace lord of Seclusion Palace stared at the sky without blinking. The body under the black robe was tightly stretched, as though there was some kind of emotion surging, about to explode. It's Qing Luo. Overlord. Overlord really brought Qing Luo back. The few of them were so agitated that their eyes turned red. All of them stared at the sky, as though they wanted to confirm that the two of them were real and not an illusion. A dong sound was heard. Repeat 600 words, change within 20 minutes more in the air, as though there was an explosion. The surging profound wave flowed wave after wave. The entire dense forest, the broken branches of the trees, the grass, all flew up into the sky. Bam! Another strong profound wave landed. Following that, they saw a figure being blasted away by that profound wave. When that figure landed on the ground, he violently coughed out a mouthful of blood. That cough. It was a woman's voice. The one who was sent flying was not Master Gui Wu. Yan Xiaoyi and the rest were in a daze, as they looked in disbelief at Bai Mei, who fell onto the ground, with a twisted face, spitting out blood. This. What was going on? The profound wave, under the hurricane, slowly dispersed. Gui Wu's figure also appeared. He stood on the same spot, unscathed. Master Gui Wu. The few of their hearts skipped a few beats, but on seeing Gui Wu safe and sound, they heaved a sigh of relief. Gui Wu looked at his own hands, and then at Bai Mei, who flew out. He frowned slightly. Just as he was about to say something. When he turned his head, he saw those few people's attention, all focused on him. The black-robed men obviously noticed this, as they all launched their attacks. His face sunk, as he shouted sternly, "Do you think water on the battlefield allows you to be distracted?" As his voice fell, he raised the long sword in his hand, and directly threw it towards those few people. The long sword stirred up a sword wave, causing those black-robed men to retreat a few steps. The few of them immediately regained their senses, as they rejoined the battle. Oh! Bai Mei groaned in pain and crawled up from the ground. She clutched her chest with one hand. He quickly touched his face with one hand to make sure that his face hadn't fallen off. It's her. The voice of the palace master of the Netherworld Palace suddenly became tense. He raised his head and looked at the sky without blinking. Her. Bai Mei furrowed her brows and immediately looked in the direction of the palace master's gaze. That little bitch? Is she finally willing to show up? He raised his head. The disgust and hatred on her face froze on her face. On the horizon, a huge white nine-tailed fox stood in the air. On top of the nine-tailed fox sat two figures who were embracing each other intimately. The girl sitting at the front was dressed in a blazing red dress that looked like a blooming fire lotus. Her dress fluttered in the wind along with the profound waves, looking like an excited flame. The girl sitting at the front was dressed in a blazing red dress that looked like a blooming fire lotus. Her dress fluttered in the wind along with the profound waves, looking like an excited flame. Behind her was a purple-clothed man with his arms around the girl's waist. His face was cold, like an unattainable god. He was overflowing with youth and peerless beauty. Behind him was a purple-clothed man with his arms around the girl's waist. His face was cold, like an unattainable god. He was overflowing with youth and peerless beauty. Only when his gaze fell on the girl. This scene. It was like a beautiful picture. End of this chapter. Chapter 44:16. Dmo Xian's eyes were calm. So calm that she couldn't tell what he was thinking. Or perhaps, to him, Bai Mei was just a passerby without any sense of existence. She couldn't arouse any unnecessary emotions from him. That cold gaze made Bai Mei's heart ache. The malevolence and distortion on her face uncontrollably stretched out. She wasn't willing to reveal any ugly look in front of Dmo Xian. But looking at the young lady who was smiling like a flower by Dmo Xian's side. She couldn't control her emotions. Bai Mei. Dmo Xian's voice was very calm. Even if it was just a form of address. Bai Mei's heart couldn't help but soar. She knew she loved Dmo Xian. Since the first time she saw Dmo Xian by her sister's side, she had fallen deeply in love with that man who was younger than her. His every move. He could easily affect her everything. Bai Mei's eyes stared greedily at Dmo Xian, as though she wanted to imprint him deeply into her mind. Her sentimental gaze was somewhat scorching. TSK. Yiqing Luo clicked her tongue as she leaned into Dmo Xian's arms and raised her little head. My Xian is really popular. That affectionate gaze, did it hook you? Dmo Xian pinched her waist as he bent down to whisper into her ear. Is it worth for you to ask such a question to an unimportant person? His words paused slightly as his husky voice revealed a faint smile, but Lil Luo can try to look at me affectionately, to see what the consequences will be. That husky voice, between the words, there was a faint magnetism. Lightly beside her ear, he breathed out hoarsely. Inexplicably, it was tainted with a kind of ambiguous atmosphere. Yiqing Luo's cheeks flushed slightly. She raised her head and stared at Dmo Xian unhappily. Her raised little hand even hammered twice on his chest. Dmo Xian's whisper earlier, although it wasn't loud. But it was clearly transmitted into Bai Mei's ears. The 4 words, unimportant. Like a clap of thunder, it heavily exploded in Bai Mei's mind. Especially when he saw Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian, acting as though no one else was around. The flames of jealousy burning in his chest could not be suppressed. Yiqing Luo, don't be too complacent. Do you think you'll be safe and sound? Bai Mei sneered as she raised her head and looked at the lovey-dovey couple in the sky. A thick black mist surged around her. The swirling mist exuded a nauseating chill. Bai Mei. Dmo Xian merely shot a glance at the thick black yin qi. Your sister wants to see you. The expression on Bai Mei's sinister face froze for a moment. However, it was only for an instant. She smiled charmingly and said, my sister? Do I still have a sister now? She doesn't even think of me as her sister. She sneered again and added a bit of mockery to her smile. What? Even until now, you still want to use kinship to influence me? Dmo Xian, do you think? A sister who can personally send me to the heavenly prison, will I still want her? Towards Bai Mei's mockery, Dmo Xian remained expressionless. Until Bai Mei finished her mockery. He then replied with a faint, oh, and continued, which means, you don't intend to meet your sister, and don't intend to go back. Hurry up and read the latest updates. Download address, phone reading. Chapter 44:17. Bai Mei's fingers suddenly clenched tightly. She clenched her fists tightly. Just as Dmo Xian had lost his patience and was waiting for her reply. Suddenly she raised her hand and covered her lips as she started giggling. That smile was gorgeous beyond compare. But her brows were incomparably gaudy. Overlord. Her voice was exceptionally seductive, with a hint of bewitchment. Kinship, indeed, has no way to soften my heart, but if Overlord is willing to give me love, perhaps you can let go. Such daring words. The entire dense forest fell into a strange silence. Bai Mei giggled delicately, and even threw flirtatious glances. Apparently, she had already given up on herself. Bai Mei. Suddenly, a clear and melodious voice interrupted Bai Mei's laughter. Bai Mei's laughter paused as she looked towards the direction of the voice. Her vision turned black. Something was coming towards her. She had yet to react in time. That thing was plastered on her face. The sticky, warm thing slid down along her face. And more than half of it slid directly into her mouth. A fishy stench, and that indescribable taste in her mouth, instantly made Bai Mei collapse. she screamed. While spitting on the thing in her mouth, she raised her hand, trying to wipe the thing off her face. Above her head floated a young lady's leisurely laughter. Be careful, if you wipe too hard, this face of yours will not be able to keep. Bai Mei's raised hand instantly froze. That fishy stench. It made her stomach roll. This is the most precious. Sacred beast's feces, eat more of it, it will strengthen your body, no need to thank me. Yi Qing Luo continued with a beaming smile. Sacred beast. Feces? These 3 words, made Bai Mei's face, turned pale in a swoosh. Instantly her stomach churned, and she started to vomit in big mouthfuls. Bai Mei, my man, is he someone whom you can dream about? Have a good taste of this precious sacred beast's feces, and calm down. Yi Qing Luo's voice suddenly became piercingly cold and gloomy. Her words were filled with warning. Her, flirting with her man in front of her? Eat a mouthful of shit and suppress that unrealistic fantasy. Bai Mei covered her mouth as she raised her head and stared furiously at Yi Qing Luo. Something sticky slid from her face to her body. An even more fishy smell assaulted her nostrils. A palm-sized bird was still flapping its wings, circling around the 9-tailed fox, flapping back and forth. Ah! Yi Qing Luo, just you wait. Bai Mei was flustered and exasperated. The stench and stickiness on her body made her feel so disgusted that she almost collapsed. She threw down a sentence. His whole body was like an arrow released from a bow, rushing into the dense forest. Childish or not? Qi Yan gave Yi Qing Luo a supercilious look. If its poop was placed in the beast clan, it would be worshipped. Now, Yi Qing Luo actually used it to disgust another lady. Qi Yan felt that it was really a waste of heaven's gifts. Yi Qing Luo leaned into Dmo Xian's arms and smiled wickedly. So what if I'm childish? As long as it works. Her smile suddenly disappeared as she looked down at a certain place. Her gaze was very calm, looking at that figure, it was as if she was looking at a stranger. Little 9, go down. Yi Qing Luo patted the 9-tailed fox. After little 9 landed, Dmo Xian carried Yi Qing Luo and walked down. The person opposite them was the person whom Yi Qing Luo was looking at earlier. Palace Lord of Secluded Palace. Update speed is the fastest, hurry up and read. Download address, mobile phone reading. Chapter 44:18. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled slightly as she spoke calmly. Do you want to continue fighting or get lost? Her arrogance was extremely arrogant. The moment the young lady appeared, the eyes of the palace master of the Netherworld Palace were all focused on the girl. Until the young lady walked in front of him. Their 4 eyes met at a close distance. He then regained his senses. Luckily, the black robe covered his face. It also covered his panicked expression at this moment. The Overlord is here. This battle has no meaning anymore. He laughed bitterly, his tone was filled with some unfathomable emotions. He really admired Yi Qing Luo. Under the circumstances where she obviously had no profound energy. She even dared to provoke him in such a brazen manner. Only because she was wholeheartedly trusting the man behind her, wasn't she? A lady like Yi Qing Luo. She was able to entrust everything she had to a man without any worries. This meant that she really loved that man. This knowledge made the heavy pressure in his heart even more unbearable. Towards the palace lord's concession. Yi Qing Luo didn't say another word. Holding Dmo Xian's arm, she walked towards her brother. The palace lord suddenly chased 2 steps forward. Yi Qing Luo. There was a hint of urgency in his voice. Yi Qing Luo stopped in her tracks, and when she turned back, the glint in between her brows was calm and indifferent. As though, looking at him, he was really a stranger. Such a strange feeling. It made him feel that it was difficult to breathe. You want to leave Heaven Cliff Ridge? He suppressed the discomfort in his heart, making his voice sound normal. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows. Why? Want to fight? Earlier. By May's words, don't you understand what she meant? He clenched his fists tightly. After leaving Heaven Cliff Ridge, even if the Overlord is around, he won't be able to protect you, do you know that? Yi Qing Luo's lips curled up slightly, as she looked suspiciously at the palace lord. What do you mean? He opened his mouth, as though he wanted to say something. But his gaze swept towards the other side, at the hundreds of black-robed men. He threw a glance at Yi Qing Luo. His tight black robe fluttered as a strong gust of wind blew wildly. A terrifying qi wave instantly enveloped Yi Qing Luo and Dmo Xian. But in an instant, he had already lost sight of the three of them. Yan Shao Yi and the rest immediately jogged up and stood at the place where Dmo Xian was standing earlier, looking around. Where is he? That secluded darkness palace lord, where did he bring Qing Luo and the Overlord to? Master Gui Wu, what should we do? Qing Luo and the Overlord. They looked at each other, their faces filled with worry and nervousness. Gui Wu's face was expressionless as he said indifferently, Di Zun is here. It's fine. The air wave that attacked the palace master of secluded darkness palace. Dmo Xian did not stop her. After the qi wave dispersed, the three of them had already arrived at a relatively deep part of the forest. What are you trying to say? Yi Qing Luo looked around and there wasn't anyone else around. Did you think that by hiding here, the real mastermind of secluded darkness palace would not find out? No. The palace master of gloomy palace lowered his head. His black robe covered all his emotions. Yi Qing Luo didn't say another word. She didn't know if he believed him, or if he was still suspicious. The palace master of gloomy palace's expression sunk slightly, but the words that came out of his mouth were unusually gentle. No matter if you believe me or not, I just don't want to see you get into trouble. The fastest update, hurry up and read it. Download address, cell phone reading. Chapter 44:19. Finishing his words, perhaps he was afraid that Yi Qing Luo would ridicule him, or perhaps Dmo Xian's cold gaze was somewhat penetrating. He continued, the Heaven Realm has now gathered people from all the major forces, and they all want to obtain you. Get her? Yi Qing Luo frowned slightly, get me? In order to prevent any accidents from happening on the leaderboard, the secret of your profound jade heart has been exposed. Those ambitious people all want to get your profound jade heart. Yi Qing Luo exclaimed, profound jade heart? From Nirvana realm to Earth realm and then to Heaven realm. What secluded darkness palace wanted from her? It had always been this profound jade heart. And, this body of hers. It was said to be some profound jade heart's container. The person behind secluded darkness palace actually spread this news? Or the other party was confident that among so many people, he had 100% chance of getting her? Yes. And not only about the profound jade heart, but also. Secluded darkness palace lord muttered to himself for a moment as a strange expression surfaced on his face, and also, the whereabouts of the Divine Emperor's tomb is also on you. Divine Emperor's tomb? What does that person want to do? Yi Qing Luo couldn't understand. Secluded darkness palace lord shook his head, this matter is very complicated. Master doesn't trust me and I don't know much. He paused and continued, regarding the whereabouts of the Divine Emperor's tomb on you, and the news of the profound jade heart, were all spread from Bone Lord. As for the reason, it seems that Master schemed against Bone Lord. Bone Lord is your uncle's identity in Heaven Realm. So the moment this was said, no matter if it's true or false, those ambitious forces all want to give it a try. Especially. Huangfu family also revealed your relationship with the Overlord. Everyone is guessing that the Overlord is with you because he has ulterior motives. While he was saying this sentence, his eyes widened. He deliberately raised his head and looked at Dmo Xian. But most of their attention was still focused on Yi Qing Luo. It was as if he wanted to see something on her face that he wanted to see. However, The young lady frowned. Bone Lord? Barbaric Blood Bone King? How does he know about the Divine Phoenix profound jade heart? And what about the Divine Emperor's tomb? What's going on? From the start to the end, he had never used a suspicious gaze to look at Dmo Xian. Even after hearing what he had said, she still couldn't help but laugh. None of them doubted Dmo Xian. Just how much trust did he have in Dmo Xian? The palace master of the Abyss Palace lowered his eyes slightly. He was secretly amused by his actions. He felt that his probing was simply asking to be humiliated. It's not surprising that the barbaric Bloodbone King knows about you. Dmo Xian lightly patted the young lady's back, but he shouldn't easily say these things that will cause you trouble. It should be the same as what he said, being schemed by that person from the secluded palace. What does that person want to do? Yiqing Luo pursed her lips, raised her hand and pressed on her heart. She was very clear how many people wanted this Divine Phoenix profound heart jade. From the Dark Organization to the Abyss Palace. Are trying to think of a way. If this news were to spread out. The danger she faced was far more serious than she had imagined. Especially, and another. News about the Divine Emperor's tomb. Master's motive, I'm not sure. The palace master of the Abyss Palace's voice sounded a little desolate. Hurry up and read the latest update. Download address, phone reading. Chapter 44:20. Yiqing Luo raised her eyes and looked at him. Before she opened her mouth, she saw the palace lord's line of sight suddenly turn towards Dmo Xian. Even though he was shrouded in a black robe, she could clearly feel that from his gaze, there was an aura of creating trouble. Immediately after, he scoffed lightly. His tone was obviously gloating, but I'm clear of one thing. Regarding the news of your profound jade heart and the Divine Emperor's tomb, Zhu Wu Xian is also aware of it. It was also because of this problem that Zhu Wu Xian and Master had a huge fight and the cooperation between the both of them broke down. Later on, Zhu Wu Xian left the palace lord. He obviously intentionally mentioned Zhu Wu Xian at this moment, just to make things difficult for Dmo Xian. Looking at Dmo Xian's calm and indifferent face, there were some slight changes in his expression. He then felt his heart was balanced. When Yiqing Luo heard that, her expression congealed slightly. She raised her head and looked at the man next to her, in this way. Zhu Wu Xian brought me away from the Gu residence and imprisoned me here, is actually to protect me? The enchantment that he had set up around the residence was not to prevent her from leaving, but to seal her presence, in case anyone tracked her existence. No wonder. Zhu Wu Xian had been forcefully not allowing her to leave the residence. No matter what the reason is. Dmo Xian's large palm directly covered Yiqing Luo's eyes. In your mind, you cannot think of other men. Yiqing Luo hugged his hand which covered her eyes. Yes, don't think. In my mind, there's only you. That tone was as though he was coaxing a child. Dmo Xian pinched her nose. The palace lord of the palace lord stared at this blissful and sweet scene. His 5 fingers were about to break. What kind of timing was this? They could still take the opportunity to be lovey-dovey. He felt that it was glaring to his eyes as he raised his hand and placed it by his lips, coughing hard. You guys temporarily hide in Tianya Ridge for a period of time. Once you walk out of Tianya Ridge, based on your current ability, how are you going to protect that profound jade heart in your body? Indeed. This was Heaven Realm. Not Nirvana Realm, not Earth Realm. Anyone here stood up. Their abilities were the strongest among the strong. Even with Dmo Xian's protection. But, driven by ambition and benefits, there would still be people who would want to try. What if he succeeded? He had obtained the Divine Phoenix profound heart jade. Find out the whereabouts of the Divine Emperor's tomb. They would be able to surpass venerable sovereigns and stand above them. He might be able to guard against one, but he wouldn't be able to guard against the second. Was this, the goal of the person behind the scenes of the Palace of Darkness? It seemed that, when the sandpiper and the clam fight, the fisherman benefits. During this period of time, almost all the major forces have been searching for your whereabouts. The palace master of the Netherworld Palace saw that the two of them did not speak for a long time. He pursed his thin lips and pulled down his cloak, covering himself completely. The Tianya Ridge is the most dangerous place in the Heaven Realm. Very few people go there. You can hide here as long as you can. I guess, this place isn't safe anymore. Yi Qing Luo pouted. Bai Mei had just left. It was definitely not just to clean up the feces on his body. Instead, he had gone to get reinforcements. No matter how dangerous the Tianya Ridge was. Under the absolute benefit. There would still be people who stepped into the Tianya Ridge. Everyone was holding on to a fluke in their hearts. The palace lord of the Netherworld Palace also knew who Yi Qing Luo was referring to. He gathered the black robe on his body and lowered his voice. That's all I have to say, I'll return to the Palace of Darkness first. Hurry up and read the latest updates. Download address, cell phone reading. Chapter 44-21. Wait. Before he left, Yi Qing Luo suddenly spoke out, that, no matter if the news you told me is true or false, I still have to thank you. The body of the person under the cloak suddenly stiffened. The pressure around him seemed to have sunk a little. Towards Yi Qing Luo's thanks. He totally didn't feel any joy. What he wanted was never Yi Qing Luo's gratitude. Furthermore, Yi Qing Luo's words was obviously filled with distrust towards him. Even if he had to take the risk of being discovered by his master. He told her everything that he knew. She still didn't trust herself. The Palace Lord of Seclusion Palace shut his eyes heavily, and when he opened his mouth, his voice was extremely tight and cold. I just don't wish for you to get hurt, that's all. His words fell. He had already rushed into the dense forest, his figure disappearing. Yi Qing Luo looked at his departing figure, still in a daze. A large palm clasped her head, pressing her into his arms. You're touched just like this? Still looking at my back view reluctantly? That voice was magnetic and deep. She couldn't hear any anger, but instead heard a hint of alluring huskiness. If you want to chase after me, then hurry up and chase after me. That sour tone made the young lady's lips unknowingly curled into a smile. Yi Qing Luo backhanded, grabbed that large palm, clasping her head, as she said smilingly, you said to let me chase, let go of me. Hugging so tightly. Which part of him looked like he was asking her to chase after him? You really want to chase? The man's voice suddenly deepened, suddenly clasping her lower jaw, lifting her face up, making eye contact with him. That man's peerless handsome face was imprinted in her pupils at a close distance. His face wasn't an angry expression. His thin lips curled into a slight arc, revealing a tinge of devilishness. Yi Qing Luo. Even though she knew it was a trap. Yi Qing Luo still had no backbone, as she indulged in this trap. Her hands hooked onto Dmo Xian's neck, her legs crossed around his waist, placing all her weight on the man. How would I dare to think? So, you're saying that you don't dare to, not that you don't want to? A certain jealous man took advantage of the faulty wording to argue. Yi Qing Luo expressed that this jealous man was really hard to coax when he pestered endlessly. But there was no other way. After all, this was her wife. Ah Pui, her future husband. He still had to coax her. The girl's smile became brighter and brighter as she rubbed her face against the man's body. Why would I chase him? Why would I chase after him? What kind of nonsense are you thinking about? A certain jealous man naturally accepted the girl's kiss. Those kisses were like feathers that tickled his heart. On the surface, he still pretended to be jealous. My little Luo, is very popular. Look, one or two of them, in order to protect you, they can even disregard their own lives. A partner who gave up on working with you to lock you up in this safe place. One, risking his life, to tell you information harmful to you. Dmo Xian's voice paused slightly. His voice was even colder than before. He lowered his head, as his chin rested on the girl's shoulder. His thin lips were very close to her ear. Don't you feel touched, little Luo, Yiqing Luo? This might be a suicide question. Her Xian's vinegar jar had been overturned. That would be an earth-shattering battle. Chapter 44-22. Yiqing Luo's hands which were hugging his neck froze. When she met the man's eyes, which were full of charm and elegance. Between her eyes, there seemed to be a resplendent ray of light flashed past. She suddenly, both her hands hooked tightly onto the man's neck. Her pink lips curled into a coquettish arc. Xian is jealous. That enchanting smile, that sweet voice, was intentionally coquettish. It successfully made the man's gaze unnaturally shifted to the two sides. Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes rippled with a faint teasing smile. Her slender fingers circled around the man's chest bit by bit, drawing circles. When Xian asked this question, I also want to know what Xian was thinking about. The young lady's bright smiling face was like the scorching sun, imprinted in his eyes. Dmo Xian seemed to be teased by the young lady's words, as he felt somewhat helpless. Locking the young lady's lower jaw, he suddenly lowered his head and fiercely bit on her lips, before he hugged her tightly in his arms. I'm very unhappy. I know. Yiqing Luo buried her head in his chest, as her little head rubbed. When I saw Bai Mei, I was very unhappy too. Even if he knew. Dmo Xian wouldn't give Bai Mei another look. She would still be unhappy. She had the impulse not to let Dmo Xian and Bai Mei speak another word. Because she knew that Bai Mei had a different way of thinking towards Dmo Xian. This was like. Dmo Xian didn't wish for her and Zhu Wu Xian, or that palace lord of the secluded palace to have too much contact. Because he knew. No matter if it was Zhu Wu Xian or the palace lord of the secluded palace, no matter how many wrong things they had done. But their feelings towards her were serious. Yiqing Luo could empathize with him, so she understood Dmo Xian's current feelings. She raised her head from Dmo Xian's arms, as her lips curled into a sweet and warm smile, but... Xian, no matter if I will be touched by what they have done, I like your heart. This point will never, ever change. I like you, no one can replace your position in my heart. The young lady's voice was firm and sincere. After saying that, she tiptoed and took the initiative to kiss the man's lips. A trace of tenderness flashed past Dmo Xian's eyes. The unhappiness in his heart vanished into thin air because of the young girl's words and her kiss. He wrapped his arms around the girl's slender waist. He turned the tables. It went even deeper and swallowed the young girl whole. Cough, 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 cough. A few awkward coughs sounded from the side. He coughed. The two of them, who were hugging each other tightly, immediately separated and looked towards the source of the coughing. He saw, a few figures were standing not far away. They were blushing and looking at them in embarrassment. Yiqing Luo's face flushed red. Why are you all here? It's not that we want to disturb you, but, it's not a good time to be intimate. Yan Xiaoyi's tone was full of ridicule. Yiqing Luo grabbed Dmo Xian's arm as she strode towards them. You'd better give me a reasonable explanation lest I beat you to death. Yan Xiaoyi hurriedly stuffed him into Qiao Jin's arms, then pushed the person in front of her. That person who was pushed out, stood together with Gui Wu. An old man dressed in glittering gold, dressed like a nouveau riche. Especially that glittering gold robe. The huge gold ingot was extremely eye-catching. Yiqing Luo didn't need to look at his face to know who this person was. End of this chapter. Chapter 44-23. God Thief, why are you here? Wasn't this the nouveau riche God Thief? Wasn't God Thief in Nirvana realm? Why did he come to Heaven realm? Why did she feel that everyone she met in Nirvana realm had all come to Heaven realm? Didn't it mean That every realm had its own set of laws? Weren't they, 5 ghosts, a little too mysterious? Somehow it felt as though the few of them could travel freely in any realm. Was this a tour? I'm worried about you, so I specially came over. Ghost Thief pounced over quickly. Before he could pounce forward, he was flung aside by Dmo Xian's sleeve. Yiqing Luo looked at Ghost Thief, who was rubbing the gold ingot embroidered on his body with a face full of grievance, and her lips twitched. You came alone? Isn't it enough to have me? Why do you still need that bunch of old men? Ghost Thief waved his hand. Then, he sized up the 2 people he wanted to use. Just now, we saw that kid from the Palace of Darkness escape from here with heavy injuries. He even brought a large group of people from the Palace of Darkness away. We thought that something big had happened to you. I didn't expect that after you guys injured someone, you're still being so lovey-dovey here. Serious injuries? Yiqing Luo went into a slight daze as she raised her head and exchanged glances with Dmo Xian. She could roughly guess the reason why the Lord of Secluded Palace would do this. The 3 of them disappeared in front of the Secluded Palace's disciples. If there wasn't any fight, then they would leave unscathed. Those Secluded Palace's disciples would definitely be suspicious. He was really ruthless towards himself. Secluded Palace is not the main point. Gue Wu's cold voice interrupted Ghost Thief's nonsense. Ghost Thief just brought news, now. The news that you have a divine phoenix profound heart jade in your body and the whereabouts of the divine emperor's tomb has spread throughout the upper realm. We can't leave Tianya Ridge for the time being. Ah Wu. Zhou Mo's eyes widened as he stared at Gue Wu in astonishment. You seem to. This is the first time you've said such a long sentence. Everyone rolled their eyes. Kitty Lee scratched him with her claws. Is this the time to be surprised? Can you look at the occasion? Gue Wu didn't pay any attention to Zhou Mo. His gaze quietly looked towards Yiqing Luo. Right now, a large number of people have already gathered in the heaven realm. They want to obtain your profound heart jade, and the whereabouts of the divine emperor's tomb. I know. Yiqing Luo nodded. It looked like Holy Pirate had come to the heaven world because of this news. In other words, this news was not only spread throughout the upper realm. Anyone with a little bit of power and influence would have received this news. Right now, she was probably a bottle of water that had appeared in the desert. She was in high demand, and everyone wanted to have her. What do you intend to do? Gue Wu didn't ask why Yiqing Luo knew about this matter in advance. Yiqing Luo's slender fingers stroked her chin. Bai Mei has escaped, so she won't be able to stay in Tianya Ridge for too long. Qing Luo, no matter what decision you make, we swear to follow you till death. Yes. We will all stand on your side. Fortunately, we came at this time. You won't be alone. The few people in the world group opened their mouths with grave expressions, swearing their determination. It was also indirectly stopping Yiqing Luo's decision to let them leave Heaven Realm first. Since they had come to Heaven Realm, they also knew about the danger that Yiqing Luo had experienced. How could they possibly turn a blind eye to it? How could they leave Heaven Realm in peace? Chapter 44-24. Those sonorous and forceful words were like an invisible energy, pouring into Yiqing Luo's heart. The lines on her face became gentle. You've chased me all the way to the Heaven Realm, how can I bear to let you leave? She let go of Dmo Xian and walked towards Yan Shao Yi and the rest. Even if you want to leave, I won't let you leave. We're a team. If I'm in trouble, of course you can't escape. Seeing Yan Shao Yi and the rest appearing in front of her, Yiqing Luo didn't ask why or how they came. She knew it better than anyone else. This group of young men and ladies, in order to chase up to her footsteps, to fight alongside her, had expended a lot of effort. Qing Luo. Yan Shao Yi and the rest hugged Yiqing Luo. Ever since they parted in Nirvana Realm, they hadn't interacted well for a long time. The last time they finally met, it was on such an occasion. They were reduced to the secluded palace, threatening Yi Qing Luo's job. Before they had the chance to feel the joy of reunion. Once again, they were facing separation. Perhaps he knew this. Dmo Xian's vinegar jar didn't overturn. Ghost Thief also rarely quietened down. Over there was brotherly love. Gue Wu glanced at the children and looked at Dmo Xian. Let's have a chat. Dmo Xian retracted his gaze from Yi Qing Luo. At the moment when he retracted his gaze, the pampering and tenderness in his eyes also dissipated in that instance. Gue Wu turned around and walked towards another direction. Dmo Xian followed slowly. After walking for a short distance, the brotherly love's playful sounds became softer. Gue Wu then stopped and looked at Dmo Xian. This matter, what do you intend to do? What do you think? Dmo Xian asked back. Once the divine phoenix profound heart jade leaves her body, it will lose its effect. Gue Wu said indifferently, this point, many people don't know, and even if this point is made public, I'm afraid no one will believe it. Dmo Xian's dark red thin lips suddenly curled, his gaze was a little chilly. How can this lord be sure, towards Lil Luo, There's no disloyalty. I thought, you know. Gue Wu replied calmly. Dmo Xian chuckled. That's right, if he wasn't clear about it, then he wouldn't have allowed Gue Wu and the others to appear beside Yi Qing Luo. He would turn a blind eye to it. It was only because Gue Wu and the rest had no ill intentions towards Yi Qing Luo. Furthermore, their existence was able to protect Yi Qing Luo. Yes. They were by Yi Qing Luo's side, in order to protect her. Or, to be more precise, it was to protect Yi Qing Luo's secret. But now, this matter had already reached the point where everyone knew about it. In order to protect Yi Qing Luo's secret, would the ghost martial artist do something to hurt Yi Qing Luo? A little of the divine phoenix profound heart jade, and Gue Wu's eyes darkened as he said word by word, if the clues regarding the divine emperor's tomb were to be made public, the world would be thrown into chaos. When Dmo Xian heard that, there wasn't a hint of panic on his face. His eyes were filled with laziness. His long eyelashes were slightly fluttering, as a silhouette flashed past his eyes. His thin lips curled slightly, his smile was calm and extremely indifferent. Whether the world is in chaos, destroyed or not, this lord doesn't care. As long as Lil Luo, is safe and sound, that's enough. Chapter 44-25. Gue Wu's brows congealed slightly, he quietly looked at Dmo Xian's face and suddenly chuckled, but if things really happen, I believe you will absolutely not stand idly by. The corners of Dmo Xian's lips only curled upwards, smiling but not saying a word. If you don't want anything to happen to Yi Qing Luo, then guard her secret well. Gue Wu didn't continue to talk to Dmo Xian. Finishing this sentence, he walked towards the crowd. Ghost Thief leaned forward and used an ambiguous gaze to wander between him and Dmo Xian. What are you and the Overlord talking about? Do you still have to be so secretive? Gue Wu glanced at him and ignored him. Did you tell him about our plan? Ghost Bandit asked, following behind him. Gue Wu's footsteps suddenly halted as he glanced sideways at Ghost Thief. No. Then what are you whispering about? Ghost Thief rolled his eyes. I thought, you really have the guts to personally tell the Overlord our decision. Placing Yi Qing Luo by our side, or rather, handing over the secret of the Divine Emperor's tomb to us, these words, will you tell the Overlord? Gue Wu looked at Ghost Thief expressionlessly. Ghost Thief's mind imagined the consequences if he said these words to the Overlord. His whole body trembled a little. Alright, he really didn't dare. With the Overlord around, he will protect Yi Qing Luo more diligently than us. Gue Wu no longer cared about Ghost Thief as he strode back into the crowd. Yi Qing Luo, who was hugging with her brothers, saw Gue Wu returning. Dmo Xian followed closely behind. She bounced towards Dmo Xian. The man naturally opened his arms and caught her. What are you discussing? Yiqing Luo's arms wrapped tightly around his waist as she raised her chin and looked at him. How to protect the secret on you. Dmo Xian tapped her little nose. Those people should be rushing into Tianya Ridge soon. Are you afraid? Not afraid. Yiqing Luo smiled sweetly. Between her brows, there was a flowing brilliance. With you around, I am not afraid of anything. It seems that in your heart, I am an invincible existence. Dmo Xian chuckled lightly as he caressed the young lady's face. Yiqing Luo nodded her head vigorously. Giving me so much pressure, aren't you afraid that I'll run away? Dmo Xian pinched her face. Yiqing Luo smiled as she shook her head. The space between her brows were like bright stars. You can't bear to. Dmo Xian laughed out loud, as his arms held the young lady tightly in his embrace. The people around him, for some inexplicable reason, he was forced to eat dog food. Could he still play happily? The atmosphere had also eased up a lot. Yiqing Luo let go of Dmo Xian's hand as she surveyed the surrounding people, and her lips curled into a faint smile. If those people want to barge into Heaven Cliff Ridge, I'm afraid they will need a period of time. Before this, I hope that you can help me guard those people. I want to try to break the forbidden curse that Bloodbone Barbaric King had placed in my body. With her profound grade sealed, it was really inconvenient for her. The Bloodbone Barbarian King's original intention was probably to let her live peacefully in the Heaven Realm as the first miss of the Gu residence. In order to prevent her from escaping, or in other words, to prevent her aura from being too unique in the Heaven Realm and attracting the attention of people with ulterior motives. So, the profound grade in her body was sealed. But things had already developed to such a stage. She had to make herself stronger. She could not always rely on the people around her, to protect her, to worry for her. She was also strong enough to protect herself. Hurry up and read the latest update. Download address, phone reading. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.